For over half a century, humans have endeavored to make business a force for good. But is the movement working? Or is it time to explore a new path forward? Welcome to Less Talk, More Action. We are your hosts, Joel Caesar and Owen Barrett, experts in clean energy, net zero real estate, decarbonization, and entrepreneurship. In each episode, we ask provocative questions and share stories from the front lines of sustainability with leaders in science, tech, and business taking real action to design a cleaner, better future. Thanks for joining the conversation. Now, let's get to work. Welcome to Let's Talk, More Action podcast. My name is Joel Caesar, the world's undisputed voice in building decarbonization. Joining me as always is Owen Barrett, the founder and CEO of America's fastest growing solar company. Today's guest, Chris Jones, the founder of Plucky Bamboo and host of the Plucky Bamboo podcast. Plucky Bamboo is the growth partner for sustainability and climate companies built to fix the problems most of them misread. They think they need more leads. So he's an interesting guy for us. You know, he's a sales, marketing, growth guy, clearly operating in the world of sustainability, but I don't know if we've had someone like him on just speaking about like those challenges, especially founders and startups. I learned a ton. I thought he was really cool.
Yeah, I feel like I wish I had met him, 12 years ago. I feel like I've arrived at my sales delivery after just stumbling through the wrong way to do it, and had someone been able to explain the correct way to do it and like what kind of values you need to be talking about. I feel like it would have had a smoother beginning of my career. So I think it's really valuable, especially for founders, but also for people in sustainability, like within corporate settings.
Yeah, because as we all know, even in that environment, you're in sales in some ways, and you need to understand how to articulate a message to the audience in the right way that resonates succinctly and clearly, language that he used a lot on the show. So I think people learn a lot. I think he's got a cool business. All right, but before we dive into all that with Chris, let's launch another segment of Joel Gets Shit On. Is that what you wanted to call it? Me getting attacked on LinkedIn for trying to ask. I consider myself a science enthusiast. You and I have a master's from one of the best environmental science programs in the world, right? You and I both stand behind that. So I'm not anti-science at all. I think I have pretty good credibility here. So this guy, I guess I shouldn't mention him by name. Climate tech investor.
You should mention by name.
No,
Let's get it out there.
I don't want to create enemies this way. Like he can. I'll ping him and let him know we talked about him on the show, and he can listen to this and respond to me. So he's a climate tech investor, and he, like everyone else who's been annoying me over the last 2 weeks, posting on LinkedIn about how the heat waves across Europe and the Northeast in America. Oh, climate change is causing heat waves. When are you all going to wake up? The world is burning, and if we don't stop burning fossil fuels, this is going to be the future. Like everyone, just the same stupid message, like they're all reading from the same script. And I just asked a simple question, I thought, to say, was there ever heat waves before the climate started changing? And so the guy went right into attack on me. I'm a troll. I'm a climate denier. I don't know what I'm talking about. Like basically just, you could tell he's used to maybe trolls coming on his feed and asking questions maybe to that tone that like he gets to respond with, you're a climate denier, you're anti-science, you don't understand the environment, you're backed by the fossil fuel industry, so you have no credibility, get off my feed. And it's like, and all I said to him, I was trying to be calm, like, hey dude, that's not me. I have a master's in science. I've led net zero at big companies. I installed one of the first net zero ordinances in the world in Santa Monica. So those attacks will not work on me. I was asking a simple question. If you, as a climate tech investor, can't respond with facts or information that disputes my question, then maybe you shouldn't be attacking me personally. And so I just like, I think a message for all the climate zealots out there, like, look, Owen and I here, we believe in the same things. We think climate change should be slowed down, mitigated. There's lots of reasons to decarbonize the world. But like this one message of heat wave, hurricanes, climate change, bad, like that never works. It's not working. Let it go. And two, get ready for some real debates because like newsflash, there has been heat waves in the past before we thought the climate was changing. And you need better responses than you're anti-science.
Yeah. I think, I don't have a lot more to add. I think people need to be ready. Like climate change is divisive. We can all agree on that. People need to be ready to come, like to bring data backed responses. You can't bring emotionally backed responses to an argument about climate change or anything else. It doesn't work, and you look like an idiot. And you gave him an easy question. Like, you could do 3 minutes of research and figure out that, yeah, we probably have had heat waves before climate change, but I bet the severity is worse now, or the frequency is worse now. Like, there's so many data points he could have gotten and just been like, oh, actually, Joel, like, you're a fucking idiot. You're wrong. But he didn't. He went emotional and like got offended and like went full snowflake.
Yeah. And I wasn't trying to be wrong or right. I asked a question. Like I continue, like one issues with the climate, not one issue, but like one of my, even with the climate science, I don't think this puts me in a denier camp, is like, are we sure the predictions of chaos and Armageddon are worth what we are putting behind the solutions? You know, like, yes, it's a risk.
But you have
like,
the same, there's the term that you always use that has the, it's
precautionary
not
principle.
worth the gamble. What is it?
The precautionary principle.
Yeah. Like that, to me, that just like summarizes why we should be doing as much as we can, even if we don't know if we're exactly right. Like, I feel like the pros outweigh the cons.
Well, that's true, but and it's just this message, like, every time it's hot, every time there's a hurricane, every time there's drought, climate change. It's not always the case. Like, it's not always the case. There has been heat waves. There has been drought.
But climate deniers do the same thing. They're like, oh, it's snowing in June. How about climate change?
It's cold out. Where's your global warming now?
It's just like, dude, it's so stupid.
Well,
like,
I almost wanted to say, like, this past hurricane season last year, late summer, fall, was like one of the mildest hurricane seasons.
Yeah,
of
it
our
was
lives.
supposed to be terrible, right?
And I wanted to poke the bear, all the climate idiots, and be like, so there was not many hurricanes this season. Was that climate change? Like, are we going to credit that now? But I piss off enough of the climate world that I'm trying to not do that as much anymore.
I feel like Chris had his sales advice was so spot on about just like selling the benefit and the value, not selling the environmental impact. And I feel like if we could similarly train people in our space to like respond with data, not with emotion, because our camp gets super emotional about everything. They're like overly emotional and touchy feely. That doesn't help. Doesn't work. It's not a good look. But the data's there. I don't think we need to do anything other than to point to the data and everything that we have. So I don't know. This guy's an idiot. I would put money that he's an unsuccessful climate tech investor.
Yeah.
Like, you should ask to see his book of investments.
God bless the companies he's investing in. Yeah.
They're
all doing the opposite of Chris, which is a great segue into our amazing conversation with Chris Jones. Joining us today is Chris Jones, founder of Plucky Bamboo and host of the Plucky Bamboo podcast. Plucky Bamboo is the growth partner for sustainability and climate companies built to fix the problem most of them misread. They think they need more leads. It's almost never that. These are companies brilliant at the impact who never learned to sell the thing they built, so they can't scale their solution. A commercial problem long before a technical one. Before he'd advised a single company, Chris ran 60-plus in-depth interviews with climate founders and CEOs and published the research behind it. Now he works directly with them, from solar software to waste data, building commercial engines that don't depend on the founder being in every room. So, Chris, welcome to Let's Talk More Action.
Hey, guys. Thanks.
Well, Chris, joining us from across the pond, we like to get right to work here on the show. We start every guest with the same first question. How are you taking action to make the world a better place?
Okay, so I am not abating carbon, removing carbon. I'm not installing solar or anything like that. What I'm doing is helping the companies that do have that impact actually sell it. Because what I think the sector gets wrong a lot is it's convinced itself that growth is the enemy. Like, if you shrink your footprint, if you do less, degrowth, but like a climate company can't grow, doesn't move the needle. It doesn't improve like their impact on anything. It doesn't scale their impact up. Like, a solar company that can't scale just leaves the coal plant running, if that makes sense. Like, the growth is the impact. You can't run a business if you're not making revenue and making sales. So I basically work with founders who were never taught to sell it. sell what they build. And what fascinates me is they almost always think it's a leads problem, but it almost never is. And that's me.
What? So Joel, it's interesting.
And before you jump in, if our producers are listening in the background, I think we got the title of the show. The growth is the impact. But go ahead, Owen.
No, it's going to be a good show because Joel and I both sell. I'm
sometimes well and sometimes not. Yeah,
usually not well.
Same as all of us.
Usually not well.
Selling's hard. Let's just admit that. Yeah.
What? Yeah. If it's not the leads that are the problem, what is it?
If you have a close rate that's below 15%, if your sales cycles are like 12 to 18 months when they should be 6 to 9, if
look at us both raising our hand. Yeah.
I'm 2 for 2 so far. Keep going.
We're working in commercial real estate. You got long sales cycles. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But like, you want to look at the thing that's closest to revenue before anything else. Because if you're only selling less than like 15% of your leads, then you're pouring more leads into a leaky bucket. Like you need to work closest to revenue first, because that's going to have the highest leverage impact on the work you do. And as you know, like the more you sell in climate, the more of an impact you can have. And so I always advise people, like, look at that end of the funnel first and then work your way backwards. Every sector has its own benchmarks. Like for B2B SaaS, it's typically like 30% close rate. Obviously for real estate, it's going to be a bit lower than that, but look at the benchmarks and then figure out where you are compared to that. Build all those systems and training, and then work your way up to like leads last, if that makes sense.
Well, and
30% B2B SaaS, Joel. Is that your close rate?
I'm not going to share our metrics, but yeah, that seems good actually. Well, and you raise your hand at 15. I mean, are you guys doing the math?
Our close rate is no. I would say. I mean, I could look at the data. I bet our close rate is like 2%.
2% from like something you call a lead. Like, hey, I talked to this person about Shine. That turning into a contract. That's the.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, our average ticket is $1.5 million. When we add storage, it's going to double. But I think if we close 2%, like I'm happy.
And Chris, you may not know about Owen. He's an installer. He's installing solar. So yeah, he's a great example of the growth is the impact. For every panel he doesn't install, that's more coal being burnt.
Yeah, for sure. And like, just to be clear here, when I talk about like close rate being at that point, I don't mean like you first speak to someone and they become like a sale. We do need to talk about like leads become sales qualified leads, and then of those is that close rate I'm talking about.
Yeah,
so there is a difference there. And
I
again,
think part of just
if you're not in
maturing as a
sales,
company,
that's something you're not going to understand.
Yeah, I think, even part of maturing as a company and one of the struggles of being a startup, because we're still a startup, is even like tracking these metrics. Yeah. I have no idea. If you were to ask me these questions, I would have no idea.
Yeah, Owen, what's the difference between a sales qualified lead and a lead? Can you answer that?
You're asking the wrong guy.
I mean, I'm on a sales team where I should know all that stuff too, but I tend to be like, I don't know, man. I talked to this person and I don't think they're gonna buy. So let's move on.
But see, I take more of the like optimistic, like rosy glass perspective, where like any owner with a multifamily property in a utility territory where the numbers make sense, like they're compelling, that's qualified lead in my mind, or qualified sales target, whatever the terminology is. Because real estate generally is motivated by numbers. They're profit driven. So if we can create the financial model that meets their financial metrics, then everybody is a qualified lead. Is that not?
Guess what, Owen? It's not.
He's taking notes. Look at Chris. Chris is taking notes here. He's got something.
This is the first guest to take notes.
This is great. I mean, he probably charges a lot of money to climate founders for the advice he's about to give us here. So let's have it.
Well, I was just going to say, like, it's not just them that are profit driven. Like any company selling into any other company, like a B2B company, they care about profit, right? Too many climate and sustainability companies are talking about the impact that they make as opposed to the profit or the savings or the risk mitigation they give to other companies. And that's a really big missed opportunity when it comes to the sales side. Like, too many companies are still talking about how much carbon they abate, how much they remove scope 3 emissions and stuff.
Not these two guys.
That's a big bug.
We don't talk about that shit at all.
No, I know. I'm glad. That's why I'm here.
You guys, you ever, you got any of you guys the Marvel, the Guardians of the Galaxy fans?
Yeah.
So there's a scene when the Guardian of the Galaxy guy, what's his name, the Chris Pratt character,
Chris Pratt, yeah.
he's with Thor, and they're talking to he's talking to his crew, and there's a meme about this. I'm bringing it back to sales, where like everyone he's looking at his team is like telling him a solution, and then Thor kind of like moves his head in and like tells him what he really wants him to hear. And then the sales version of this is every sales team is like, what I need is better training. I need a better product. I need better value proposition. I need better product market fit. I need better pricing. But then the sales manager comes in as Thor and is always like, make more calls. And it's like every sales team, sales leader, like just like defers back to, hey, it's not our problem to solve those other things, like training, better product market fit, like just make more calls, get more leads, and we'll be okay. I think that's maybe, Chris, what you're maybe addressing with your thesis around this market.
Yeah, partly. Like, if you're in sales, your job is sales, right? You got to do everything you can to make more sales. You got to follow up more. You got to keep nurturing, keep doing that kind of thing. It is up to founders to make sure that obviously they have a good product and the market education piece is there. So you're not having to convince people both to buy your product and that they have a problem that you can solve. Like that should be done by marketing. But like it's everyone has their role to play. And for me, I work directly with founders because when it comes to growth and commercialization, like it does affect the entire business. Like the product team needs to be talking to the marketing and sales teams to understand what they are saying and what people are looking for. Like what is it prospects want they don't currently do? And then at the same time, like marketing and sales need to be talking to each other around that. And like there's just all these pieces that need to come together. But to answer your question, like yes, to an extent, but there are lots of different factors at play there.
I have a theory that I've developed over time, just of meeting a lot of founders, and that's that startups whose founder is an engineer have a much harder time selling. Would you agree with that statement? Because they're inherently like too in the weeds. I don't know what it is. They're too detail oriented. They can't like spit out a value prop fast enough. But I see so many cool technologies or services where the engineering founder just can't get out of their own way.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's talk about this one. I find this super interesting. So,
it's probably a target customer for Chris Jones and Plucky Bamboo, I guess, right? You want the founder that can't sell.
Yes, but at the same time, they're the hardest to sell too because they don't completely understand the benefit of it. So let me dig into this a little bit. I think there's a few things that are happening here all at once, and a symptom of it is there are tons of communication and brand companies in the industry, very few growth, like hard selling companies. I think that's a symptom of the industry, and I think you two have spoken about this on a couple of episodes before, that like the industry keeps coming up with new jargon and new terms. No one understands half of it. If you're working in sustainability, you don't understand half of it. When it comes to communications, it's much easier to change the words on your website than it is to actually change the way that you sell something. And you're right, when it comes to engineers, technical founders, and also people that have spun off products from academia, for them, communication is really important because you're trying to get across really complicated concepts and you've got to do it concisely and clearly. And so for them, the most important thing is communication. It's not, how do I build a business? Mm-hmm. At the same time, there are tons of, and I'm not going to name any kind of organizations here, but there's tons of accelerators, funding networks, things like that give a bunch of money to climate companies that are engineer or founder led, technician led. And the extent they help them when it comes to marketing and sales is hiring someone from like KPMG to give them a really generic, here's how you run marketing thing about 4Ps, rather than anything that's actually useful to them and their specific target market. And so I think there are so many different things happening here all at once for exactly those kind of founders that you just mentioned, Owen, that there's nothing there to help them take the next step. Like yes, we've got this great product. How do we actually build a business from it? How do we get into the market and sell to people? How do we understand what their actual pains are before we spend millions of dollars on a product that no one actually wants to buy?
Yeah. Two best sales types of salespeople I've ever met are Mormons and people that sold Cutco knives growing up.
Also, children.
Yeah, well, children have like a different. They got the sad puppy dog eyes.
They will do anything to make the sale and buy the thing.
Yeah.
Get you to buy
Well,
the thing.
have you come across people with Cutco backgrounds or Mormons?
No, not well. A buddy of mine sold Cutco knives growing up. He sold them to my
Is he
parents.
crushing it in the sales game now?
He's now a minister, so I don't know. He went the other direction. He was great at sales. Great guy, very magnanimous, funny, outgoing, good looking. So yeah, I'm sure he's a great minister as well. Well, Chris, let's transition for a second. I'd love to get back to some of the tactical sales stuff because I think it is interesting for our audience because we don't usually talk about like selling and why that matters and I think the three of us all align there. And let's get back to that. But I'm just curious about like your company, Plucky Bamboo. So like, why this? How did you just wake up and decide? You know what? Climate founders need this. Like, tell us the journey to where you are now.
Yeah. Quick bit of context. I studied video game design at uni. I was an actor and theatre producer after that. Then I got into marketing and sales. So really started an SEO agency. And from that kind of learned the sales side of things, went into conversion rate stuff, learned a lot about like psychology and selling, things like that. And then kind of I've always wanted to work in service to people, like speaking of ministers. And I was on a hike in North Carolina, the Smoky Mountains with my wife, and just realized like, I think I want to do something about climate change because I've always known it's been a thing. I've always known like recycle, eat a little bit less meat, try and like just do good for the environment. And yeah, we came back to the UK, back home, and I realized that like I want to be working on climate change, but I don't know a thing about it. So as you mentioned in the intro, I wanted to learn as much as I could before I started telling people like, oh, you need to do SEO and conversion rate optimization. Like, what are the actual problems that people are facing? And so I did a mass cold email campaign to as many founders in climate as I could, basically asking them if they're interested in having an interview with me about what their specific growth challenges are. And that's kind of how I understood what the sector is struggling with the most. It's not communications or branding or PR. Yes, there's a bit of greenwashing, but the problem is they just can't sell what they do. And if they can't sell what they do, they can't build a business, they can't scale their impact, we can't do something about the climate crisis.
So like, what stage of a company are you trying to insert yourself into? Like, where they don't have a current head of sales at the moment, they're Series A, like, I'm on your LinkedIn, and you caught my attention with some of your very cool content. So shout out to Chris, follow him on LinkedIn. And I know even in your intro here, we're looking at for the show, you talk about founders. So you seem to be focused on helping the founders. So yeah. Like, tell me like, what's the ideal scenario where someone comes in and hires Plucky Bamboo?
Yeah, it's kind of what Owen said earlier, and I think yourself as well. Like, it is typically going to be founder-led companies where they're up to maybe like getting into 7 figures revenue. And it's like, I know Alex Hormozy calls it the swamp, like between 1 and 3 million, where you can't really, you got to put all your profit into hiring someone to be able to grow the company. So that's kind of where I play, and maybe slightly earlier too. So like the founder is doing almost all of the selling themselves, almost all the marketing, things like that. Maybe they've got a social media person, something like that. But they really struggle either because they can't sell, because that's not their skill set, or they just don't have the time in their calendar anymore. Like, even if you are a good commercial founder, if you're doing all the sales calls and stuff like that, you're jumping in, you're helping with the marketing, you're running over to events and conferences, like, you don't have that time. So what we do is work mainly with founders, sometimes like head of marketing, and build those kind of systems, processes around them so that they can hire someone. We just pull all that knowledge out of their head about what works and pass it to someone else, or build it if they don't have that.
So it sounds like the answer to this is yes, but as one, because I struggled with this maybe, I don't know, 2 years ago, was like going from founder-led sales to sales team led sales. Is that one of the strategies that you guys take? Is like, look, founders need to lead sales to a certain point, but it's often, I think, pretty hard for them to then take a step back and trust someone else to like sell their baby. So what is that transition like, and like any advice you can give to the kind of entrepreneurial people that listen to the show?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. Like, it is a really hard transition, especially putting that trust in someone else, especially in this sector where it's like you're trying to make a real difference, right? You build the business to actually fight the climate crisis. It's going to be hard to trust someone else to do it. So the first big thing we always do is like, and obviously walk you through the process here if I'm going on too much and tell me, but like typically the very first thing is watching back their last 10 sales calls, just because then you kind of understand the language that they use, understand how it is they get someone over the line, and like understand how they move someone through a sale. Because typically when you're the one doing that on a call and you're speaking to someone, you're not like analyzing it at the same time. And as a founder, you don't have the time to go back and watch your sales calls to understand why it worked. So that's normally the first thing we do. Next thing we do is like kind of, it's a fancy consultant word, but like codify it. Like, what is the process there? What is it they're doing? How is it they're getting someone over the line? Is it that the value proposition is about cost savings, or is it more about profit? Is their target market like specifically like emotionally led because of what they sell, or is it more logical? Things like that, right? Once we build all of that, then we say, this is something we can test with a new salesperson. Let's bring in like maybe an SDR at this point to start making those, start setting those calls. Normally the next thing to do is hire an SDR, then start setting those appointments using that kind of language that the founder has used before, that value proposition, to see if that actually works. Because if it does, and the SDR is good, then you can promote them to an actual salesperson and move from there. And that's typically kind of how it works. Yeah.
I wonder when you're at these moments, because I've now been in a couple companies where I'm like, the swamp, it's interesting. That's an interesting term. And I've advised, there's a company I've advised in the past that like total engineer having trouble selling. But like this, when you insert yourself, if you get that the founder like, yep, I need you, Plucky Bamboo, come in. What you just described seems pretty tactical, right? Like simple. You way oversimplified, I'm sure, than how it actually goes. But do you ever look and say, you know what, founder, you don't have product market fit. Your problem is your product. Like I'm sure that happens where you're like, a miracle can't save you with the sales process here. You guys you're talking to the wrong person, or you're framing this the wrong way, or like you're trying to sell your product, but you're not reframing it into what the audience is going to say. So I guess like, how do you stay in your lane in that moment?
Let me add on to that. Do you ever recommend that they hire a co-founder because they're so bad at selling? Like, how do you deliver the bad news to these people when I'm sure you need to?
Or no, I'm sorry, we're jumping ahead of you. We keep answering our own questions. Like, he's a consultant. He's probably like, oh, no, this is great. I want to work with the disaster founder because they'll just keep hiring me. I don't want to actually solve this for them. Then that's not revenue for me anymore.
This guy's a cash cow. He sucks at selling.
Oh, man. Can we invest in Plucky Bamboo? There's a lot of founders that need Plucky Bamboo.
Okay, cool. So yes, like, where to start? So
yeah, what do you say when your product sucks? Do you say that, or do you just kind
your
of
product sucks? No. So like, look, obviously you guys just asked about the selling side of things, right? That is kind of a part of what we do. Another big part of what we do is that kind of message market, product market fit kind of thing, right? Because as you said, like, if the product isn't good enough, then the product needs to be improved. And so I haven't ever told someone that they need to improve their product before, and I haven't told someone they need to hire a co-founder before. But what I have said to people is, and I think I mentioned this earlier as well, like getting the product team to listen to what's going on in marketing and sales. Like if your prospects keep asking for something, you don't have it in the product, that's probably a bit of a key to something. And too many people are building things in this space where there isn't product market fit. Like they are building sustainable alternatives to products or something like that, where you're going to ask a company that's doing hundreds of millions of dollars of sales to change their supply chain, change their factory, and pay 25% more for your product because it's more sustainable. It's not fucking happening. Like,
Yeah, and the
I am
answer is
so
why
sorry.
would they do that? Well, because they care about climate change, Chris, or they have a net zero commitment. It's like, yeah, well, that's not how the world works, as we're all learning.
That's not how the world works. Exactly that. And like, those are the kind of situations where I say to them, like, you need to go and speak to more of your customers first. You need to find out more of what their actual pain is that you're solving first. And obviously, this is a lot harder for like a hardware company, like, I don't know, like a I can't think of an like a sustainable base dye for textiles. No one's going to take it because there is no need for it right now. Unless it is cheaper than what they're currently using, they just don't care. And so that's the really big thing. Like, I say to them, speak to more of your target market and find out what it is they need first. But yeah, like that is almost kind of the step one of what we do. There's a whole process and system that we follow, but yeah.
Do you consider yourself a climate founder? Like, you're a climate founder, right? Kind of.
No one's asked me that before.
And you're selling. You have your own. You're selling all the time, right? You're selling to founders. So I guess my
selling is just getting people to find alignment with you. Like, do you both agree that there's a problem that needs solving? Yes, great. That's sales. Like, we're all selling in some way at some point. But you know what? No, I don't consider myself a climate founder. Yes, I only work with climate companies, but at the same time, I'm not doing something that's actually helping with the carbon myself specifically.
Well, that's
Like indirectly. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
an interesting perspective to have.
I was gonna say, before you jumped in, Owen, I was gonna say, like, yeah, my line of questioning here was gonna be, are you concerned, like, or what's your umbrella of climate? Like, is it impact, or you only want to help companies that you think are doing well, doing good for the world, something?
Yeah, and like that is, and I'll be honest with you, like it does get slightly grey with certain things. But I tend to, as long as you're doing good for the world, as long as you're like, it could be nature, it could be some like solar, obviously, electrification, that kind of thing. But it's basically companies doing good and helping to fight the climate crisis. And that includes like microplastics removal, things like that.
Okay, so, well, Owen, jump in if you were going to.
I was just going back to one of the things you said. I feel like the most foundational thing you could do for all climate tech founders is just tell them nobody fucking cares about the environmental impact. Stop putting it in your pitch deck. Stop talking about it. Just like stop altogether. Don't even consider, I would almost say, don't consider yourself a climate tech founder. Just be a founder. I feel like we've gone so far down this, like.
Well, yeah, he says this in his document, our prep document that we work on together that you never read, Owen. He puts. You make a statement here, Chris. I'll tee you up here, and you can knock it out of the park, to use a American sporting term you might not be familiar with. You say, stop selling your values and doing good. Start selling the benefit a buyer pays for. So it sounds like you're parroting this every day.
Yeah, like that's basically 90% of my LinkedIn content, to be honest with you.
How is that received from like idealistic climate tech founders? Do they have a hard time swallowing that message?
I think you probably know the answers to that, Owen. Yes, they do.
I'm just giving you give you a softball here, so you can go back to Joel's baseball analogy.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris. Take it away.
Yeah, no, like
knock it out of the park.
Yes, it is. It's too many. Okay, you know what? I'm going to get slightly philosophical with this, which maybe isn't right for this podcast, but like, growth is the most natural thing in the natural world, right? Like, if something's not growing, it's stagnating, it's dying. And there's so many people in climate that feel like growth is what the problem is. It's not. It's just that we're not growing in a way that's conducive to our long-term sustainability as a species. Like, we're not doing things long-term. And there are so many people in the space that feel like, and this is why so many people are bad at sales and marketing in the space as well, is because they feel like if they try too hard to grow their company, they're giving into this whole growth thing, which is why the problem is here in the first place, so they say. And so, like, they feel like it's scummy and against their values to be salespeople on market and sell. And it's like, people don't take it well when you say that, yeah, a company might say they care about the environment, they might say they care about their Scope 3 emissions, but when the CEO has to sit there in front of the board and they have to speak to their shareholders, they don't give a shit about the environment. That's just frankly how it is. All they care about is dollars. If you can save them money or make them more money, that's all they care about.
That's a good. That's a good clip for the social media there.
We should just stop this podcast. I
Yeah.
think.
Well, Chris, we're getting close to time, and we always wrap up with one question. But before we get to that last question, and then maybe Owen will have one, I want to use your expertise here. Like you say in this document, again, what to do Monday morning. The concrete moves that can decouple growth from the founder being in every room. So let's hear it. Give us your expertise. Monday morning, maybe a founder is listening right now, and they're like, I hear this. I recognize I'm the problem. There's too much founder-led. I'm a bottleneck. I gotta let go. For me to grow, I got to let the sales team, like, what's the advice? How do you decouple?
So the first thing you need to do is just look at how much things are dependent on you. Like, pull your last 12 months of closed deals, right? Look at each one. Did it come from an actual system or process that you follow? Or is it just from you as the founder being in the room? Like, most people haven't actually sat there and looked at that number. That's the real bottleneck in most companies. It's like black and white, right? Then I would say rewrite your website from your sales calls. Take the transcripts of those calls where people said yes, use their words, feed it into like your favorite AI program, and stop selling what it is you do, right? Sell the outcome that they bought for. Yeah. That's what goes on your website and all your marketing and all your LinkedIn content and all the social stuff you do, because that is what starts closing without you as the founder in the room, right? And then the third thing I would say is measure 2 numbers before working with any kind of 19-year-old lead gen expert sitting in their mum's basement. Look at your close rate and look at your sales cycle. As we said earlier, is it below benchmarks for both? And then if it is, kind of the leak is in the process. It's not in the top of funnel. It's not in the leads. Fix those first, fix what's closest to revenue, and then work your way up.
Do you help companies redesign websites to be less about what they do and more about what they offer?
The outcome, yeah.
I mean, like, yes, it's part of the work we do. It's a small part of it, but like and to be clear here, like, we work across the marketing and sales, like across the growth piece. Sales is the most important to me because it's the most closest to revenue. But yeah, like, if your website is talking about, oh God, I know it's cliche, but like, if you're talking about features rather than outcomes, that's like the first thing to fix. And it's the same in your marketing and everywhere else. Like, figure out what that message is that you're saying to people, and it has to be like business outcome driven. If you're selling into sustainability lead or procurement or facilities, like, they need to be able to take it to their leadership. They need to be able to get buy-in from them. You need to enable them as champions.
Oh, and your website's probably going to pass the test. I just went on it now.
We got to do a whole. That's why I asked this question. We're thinking about like a brand refresh, website redesign, and this is the kind of shit as a founder I hate.
But at least, to his point, like, I went on your website. The very biggest letters, that the first thing I read is like, you're talking about outcomes for your client. So it's, I think you're.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's terrible, but I think it could be. I think it could be better, right? It could be like more clear.
Well, Chris, it's interesting, like this idea of growth not being the bad guy, and especially in the world of impact, about that needs to be sort of corrected. And I think there's a way to reframe it, even positively, to those folks, to say, like, like, that's joking to the side at the beginning of the show. We said, the growth is the impact. I really like the way you described it. I think that's helpful. And I don't have a traditional background in sales. I've been doing more fully sales work over the past couple of years. I intentionally went into this because I thought I could be good at it, but I've been humbled. It's not easy, but I do appreciate, like, the organization. Like, we have at Cambio, there's a coffee mug we pass around. It's a famous quote from Ken Griffin. Ken Griffin, the founder of Citadel, big hedge fund here in America. He's got a famous quote, a plaque, I guess he has behind his desk, that he got when he was like a junior analyst, and some boss he worked for gave him this quote. He said, "If we're all going to eat, someone has to sell." And it's like really a way to summarize what you talk about, Chris. Like, yeah, the business cannot survive. Like nature does not survive unless it's growing. And yeah, we all gotta. That's a segue to my last question to you. This has been fascinating. We've learned a ton. We'd love to have you back. I think you're a great follower on LinkedIn, so we're gonna be pointing everyone to you. But look, you're taking this message of sales can lead to impact. It's really interesting. We haven't had anyone like you on, and we'd like to end the show on positivity. We always we worry the environmental industry focuses too much on negativity. So we end up on optimism. And Chris, the last question we always ask is, what gives you hope for the future?
I've been thinking about this question a little bit since I knew you asked it. There's two things. Can I go with two things, or does it have to be one?
No. Yeah.
I didn't say what's one thing that gives you hope. So sure.
Okay,
take
fine.
it in any direction you want.
So this is going to be slightly UK centric, but there's something called the People's National Emergency, and it is basically there's a documentary that's been built from that. It's talking about the climate crisis, how it's going to affect the UK, and their whole big thing is to get lots of politicians to start speaking about the climate crisis the same way they did COVID when they have this weekly update, right? So there was the documentary showing at London Climate Action Week a couple of years ago. I was going into it really worried that it's going to really depress me. I came away from it really helpful. And one of the big reasons why is because we are electrifying at a faster rate than any forecast has come up with. We are exponentially increasing how quickly we electrify. So already we're starting to see so much difference happening when it comes to the energy markets. And Owen, I know you know this very well with all the ITC stuff the other day, 4th of July. So we are smashing those forecasts. That's the first thing. The second thing is how many people are arriving into the industry now. I'm finding it really rare now to find a founder who's been in sustainability their whole career. There's so many people pivoting from other industries and actually bringing real commercial chops with them. And for me, that is the missing muscle that's been missing in the sector. Is finally starting to come into it. And yeah, that gives me a lot of hope.
Awesome stuff. Chris, it's been a pleasure, man. Owen, anything to add before we wrap up?
No, I like that. I think, Joel and I have always joked, or maybe it's just me, but Joel, I think you'd agree with this, that sustainability should only be a minor. You should not be able to major in sustainability. It's just a waste of time.
Totally
so
agree.
I'm glad to hear that you're seeing people with actual backgrounds go into sustainability. Yeah. Rather than people try to start their career in sustainability, because I just feel like it's really hard to do.
And like he said, bring the commercial chops. Yeah. That's how we're going to see things work. Well, Chris, thank you. Thanks for joining. We're going to wrap up. What do you want to plug? How do people follow you? If they want to learn more about Plucky Bamboo, they got a website. They follow you on LinkedIn. Give us the plugs.
Yeah, sure. Website is pluckybamboo.com. My LinkedIn is Chris G. Jones. You can search me on there. There's a lot of Chris Joneses, so it'll probably be easier if you search for Plucky Bamboo and find me through there. This gone weekend, actually, a couple of days ago, I built a free tool for climate founders where they can answer 25 questions, spend 8 minutes doing it, and it will tell them exactly what their biggest growth bottleneck is likely to be. So it could be sales, it could be message market fit, it might be something else. You can find that at pluckybamboo/growth-diagnostic.
Well, we're gonna make Owen do this questionnaire as a homework assignment.
I'm gonna game the answers so the bottleneck's not me.
Please try and bake it, please.
All right. Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Owen. Thank you to our audience for joining. You can find Owen and I also on LinkedIn, usually actively antagonizing the more talk, more complaining sustainability nerds. You can find this podcast and more great content at letstalkmoreaction.com. If you like the podcast, please subscribe, like, and share with your friends. And until next time, we encourage you to ask yourself, what are you doing to take action to make the world a better place?